Killing Meap Softly, My Big Fat Meap Wedding.
Hey, I know what we're gonna analyze. The episodes in season 5. Hope it brings you laughter. This is Afterferb.
Meap me in St. Louis, meep me at the fair. Don't tell me the lights. Oh, hey guys, didn't see you there. While we're all here, we might as well record an episode of Afterferb. And look, we're up to the big special, the big half-hour special, the most anticipated episode of the season that everyone's been waiting for. Meap Me in St. Louis.
Episode 42.
Episode 42, episode 9.
I'm going to argue that this is not the most anticipated episode of the season. I would argue the most anticipated was the Stacey Perry episode, but this was still pretty hyped up.
I was being hyperbolic in order to create a contrast between the hype and what some people's opinion of the episode is.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're finally here. We've teased this one a little bit over the course of the season already, and it seems the episode already has some pre-defenders. I think it's safe to say within the three of us, we cover quite a wide spectrum of opinions, so It should be a pretty interesting discussion.
I think this will be the first time that we haven't really been on the same page about an episode.
I mean, so far, the biggest disagreement we've had was that I didn't love Tropey McTropeface as much as you guys did. But, I still like that episode. I think we were still...
Yes, this is going to be one where this gets into debate territory.
All right, so I think I kind of want to mediate this one a little bit. Because,
okay.
All right, I'll let the audience... So, Zach, from what you told me, you are decidedly a fan of Meet Me in St. Louis, and you think it's a good episode. Andrew, more or less, is on the opposite end of the spectrum, in that you don't think that the episode is very good.
Correct.
Whereas I think about it in terms of, okay, what's this episode trying to be? What's it trying to accomplish? Is it trying to be good? Not necessarily. Is it trying to use all the clips from the trailer? Yes.
Necessarily.
And in that, it completely accomplished its goal. So that's kind of where I sit on things.
See, I'm kind of leaning towards what Alex is saying. I don't think, from a story perspective, it's the strongest. A lot of the episode feels contrived, but I kind of want my cartoon Goofy series to have a super contrived episode every once in a while. The jokes of them, kind of forcing in the shots from the previous trailer, a majority of them worked for me. And yes, I don't think it's quite as strong as the first two Meep episodes, but I still had a very good time watching this, and I think it accomplishes exactly what it means to accomplish.
I want to preface this by saying everyone who worked on this episode, I think, is incredibly talented. A lot of the head writer of this, John Coltonberry, written episodes like Shea Platypus, Phineas and Ferb Christmas Vacation,
My
Ferb
favorite
Latin,
episode.
Some of the best episodes of the series. And the people who directed this episode, James Kinn, Chrissy Barr, they also directed other episodes this season that I personally have loved, like Deconstructing Doof, Cloudy with a Chance of Mom, which is what we say at the end of every episode. And to anyone listening at home, if you enjoyed this episode, I love that. I'm very happy for you. However, I feel like this episode not only kind of falls flat as a follow-up to the first two Meep episodes, but also, I think, is structured really weirdly, paced really badly, and is generally, I think, one of the most incoherent episodes of Phineas and Ferb that I've watched. I know that sounds harsh, but I have specific reasons why I feel like it just didn't work for me.
No, you're right. That does sound harsh.
Yeah. I lean closer to Andrew than to Zach on this one. I'm also more or less of the opinion that this was really just purely for the purpose of using the clips.
Yeah.
And the story was relegated to second or third or fourth most important part of this operation. In particular, I think what really kind of sets that into confirmation for me, the moment Meep shows up at Susie's birthday party, it's so out of nowhere. It's kind of, Candace is there chatting with Jeremy, and then suddenly out of nowhere, Meep is here with no context.
Yeah.
And it's like, Candace, I've come whatever million light years away to find you. And also we have new translators now, and we talk, and I'm voiced by John Stamos, and here are the stakes of the episode, and you have to work with me. And Candace says, okay. And then suddenly the plot starts.
I think maybe what we should dive into first, because I feel like this might be like a litmus test on like if we vibe with this kind of humor. I think we should talk about the shot counter in this episode. Because
yes.
Like you were saying, Alex, the episode does make it very clear right off the bat that their goal for this episode was to incorporate 12 shots from the previous Meap episode. And they do that. And when they do that, every single time that happens, there is a on-screen visual gag with a counter that goes up saying, look, we used the shot. And I feel like that type of humor might work for some people.
I am some people.
Yes. To me, I feel like every time there had the potential of that being a funny joke, the fact that it was going, hey, look, we made a joke. Wink, wink, we made a joke. We did the thing. Kind of made me not like the jokes at all.
See, I really liked it because I'm a huge fan of meta humor, and I think no one does it better than Phineas and Ferb. And I know that you like meta humor too. I don't know if you like it in this particular regard, but I'm a fan of the gimmick episodes in a way, like
Ferb TV,
like Ferb TV. That's my like favorite 11-minute segment in Phineas and Ferb.
I like that too.
I like Remains of the Platypus. That's the backwards one, right? Like,
yeah.
I enjoy episodes that are more focused on gimmick than focused on story. And I think I'd be a little more critical of this episode if the other stories in season 5 weren't as solid as they are. But this has been a really solid season so far.
It has.
So I'm kind of down to have just like a gimmicky episode. And I, from the very first shot counter bit, was like, oh, I hope they keep doing this. I loved it.
Here's my thing. I feel like, because I just rewatched the first 2 Meep episodes in preparation for this podcast. Meepless in Seattle, I feel like the joke of that episode already was like, hey, we have all these shots and we're going to put them in. And sometimes they fit in super seamlessly and sometimes they were contrived. And I feel like when they were contrived, the joke was already just that they were contrived. Like you had the bit where Carl's putting his arms behind Monogram again and they just kind of recontextualize it. And like the episode knows that it's like forcing it a little bit, but like that's funny because you just saw that trailer. To me, when you take a moment like that, like, oh, look, it's funny, it's contrived, and then you also put on screen an additional indicator that it's contrived, like, I think that just ruins the joke for me. It's a hat on a hat.
I agree. Honestly, I think I would have liked the counter a little bit. Maybe if it was like a little more subtle, if it didn't actually stop this, like the motion of the scene.
Yeah.
If it was just a little thing flashing up like 3 out of 12 in the bottom corner, something like that.
With like a ding, but it didn't pause. Yeah.
Yeah, without a pause. I feel like something just a little more subtle would have been nice, especially because I do think the fake extra trailer at the end, that got a genuine laugh out of me when they used the leftover scenes.
I did like that. Yeah.
That was very funny. So maybe worth it just for that. But yeah, in general, I agree. Especially the fact that they start the count, like the first scene with the rocket ships is so quick. It's immediately. It's like literally it ends like, we're going to try to use all these 12 scenes or these 12 shots. Let's see if we can do it. And like 10 seconds in, it's like, all right, we've used one. It kind of is like, oh.
I did feel like they got through the first half of them very quickly.
Yeah.
It was funny. My least favorite version of that joke was right before my favorite version of that joke. I didn't like the Jerry the Platypus one. That felt kind of like it went nowhere, but it was immediately followed by the VHS tapes one, which was my favorite.
I did like that gag
this episode,
and I want to reiterate, like I think incorporating these shots, like some of them, I think legitimately, like I understood the joke, like the like you said, the VHS blimp, I think was funny. Having the explosion just be like, oh, and I mean, install the self-destruct button. Like I think that was funny, and I also feel like there's room to incorporate like, hey, this one's a little bit forced. I just feel like you were saying, Alex, like either making it a little more subtle or just showing a little bit more restraint. Like they have that scene in the middle of the episode where Doof gets off the bus and they get on Perry's hover car and Doof's like, wait, why were we taking the bus? And then it cuts to the trailer and he's like, oh, right, trailer. Like if that had been the only moment of it in the episode, I think it would have been totally like earned. But I feel like they should have shown a little bit more restraint and not done that 12 times. That's kind of where I lie.
I don't know. I feel like Doof's line still worked because, if anything, that made me laugh harder than the rest of them because it was the first time it was addressed in the dialogue versus with the counter.
Yeah, well, I mean, the three of us have all shared our opinions, but I feel like maybe it would be helpful to get the opinion of a fourth person. I don't know if anyone else agrees.
Alex, I have a question.
Yeah.
For this episode, do we have a very special guest coming, or do we not?
Oh, now that you mention it, we may or may not actually have a special.
I agree.
And we're gonna bring her in. We're gonna bring her into the discussion immediately and see what she thinks about the shot counter or whatever it's called.
Immediately starting right now.
Wow, we now have a fourth person in the discussion, and could it be? Is it possibly Phinbella scholar, artist, co-writer of But It's Christmas Becky, singer of Swinter, and inventor of Buford It's Cold Outside, AuthenticCadence18? Is that you?
It is! It's me! It's me! I'm sorry. Anyway.
Hi, Cadence.
It's me. Hi, guys. Oh, it's so good to be here. I'm so excited.
All right, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your Phineas and Ferb history in 2 minutes or less?
Of course. Okay. So I got into Phineas and Ferb in 2011. I saw Summer Belongs to You on TV, and I was like, wait, the show's actually really good. And then I caught the last 20 minutes of Across the Second Dimension and My Fair Goalie on TV on accident a couple months later, and that was it. I drew Isabella 20 times over the course of 3 days, and that was it. I was super into Phineas and Ferb, and I didn't really like join the fandom per se until like I made my fan accounts in 2019, and then 2020 when Candace Against the Universe came out, I was like, oh, it's COVID and I'm really anxious, and Phinbella is my favorite thing, so I'm gonna start making Phinbella stuff again. And so I started writing and drawing and everything, and it made me really happy. And then as far as MWCA goes, I was not in the actual MWCA, but after it came out, I made an animatic to Sincerely Me, and that got
I love that.
everyone's attention, and I girl bossed my way into the MWCA group. And
we were so grateful you did.
I'm so grateful too. And I've gotten to work on a ton of really fun MWCA projects since then. You listed some of my favorites, Alex. I'm also very fond of Driver's License as Sung by Buford. I think that one was my idea too, but that was me and Andrew co-wrote that. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. I write, I draw, I have lots of fun Meap Me and St. Louis lore from when I was younger to get into. But yeah, that's me. I'm so happy to be here.
And I'm happy that we have somebody to settle this bitter feud that we've started.
Yeah, no, I'm actually drafting a new lease that removes Andrew from our apartment over this.
Ooh. Oh, you're saying I don't have to pay rent?
No, that's not what I meant. No, I need you to pay rent, please.
This is a real Hatfield and Capulet situation. All right, Cadence, what did you think about? Well, actually, why don't you first by sharing your initial general thoughts about this episode, as we have already begun to do.
Okay, so the first time I watched this episode, I was very, very, very underwhelmed. I was very disappointed. I was kind of distracted while I was watching it, but I wouldn't have been distracted if it wasn't so underwhelming. I did watch it again this morning, and I enjoyed it a lot more going into it like with like minimal expectations, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there were some things like that we'll get into. I was watching, I was like, this makes no sense. And then I got to the end and I was like, oh, okay, I understand now. But yeah, my first take, I was not impressed that much. And I feel bad because I love all the writers who worked on this. John Colton Berry actually, he tweeted something about writing it in 2024 and I replied to it and he replied to my tweet. So I feel awful that I didn't like the episode.
We love John
much.
Colton Berry.
We love you, John Colton Berry. You're an icon. We love you so bad. Meepless in Seattle is like my favorite thing in the world. But yeah, the shot counter, I am kind of with Andrew on this one, especially the second time.
Dang it.
That was like, I really found myself enjoying the jokes, but then the shot counter, it was kind of like, it was a little too on the nose for me. I kind of think if they had made it a little more subtle, like y'all are saying, like having it, like the nickel joke in the Phineas's birthday clip-orama where the price just keeps ticking up. I think if they'd done something like that, I would have liked it more. And I do like the ending, the fake out with Susie. That, I agree. It was very, very funny.
I do too.
That was good.
I think that joke did land.
But I mean, yeah. Have you seen Phineas and Ferb? Their noses aren't subtle at all.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. But yeah, that was... I don't know. And I feel like one of my opinions is I feel like the trailer for Meapless in Seattle is better than the one for Meap Me in St. Louis. Like the Meapless in Seattle one is a little more dramatic, whereas Meap Me in St. Louis is sillier.
I think that probably comes down to the fact that when they made the trailer for Meap Me in St. Louis, they were trying to make it more ridiculous on purpose. Like they acknowledge as much in Meapless in Seattle. They were like, we have no intentions to make this, so we're just gonna go balls to the wall. Like we'll put in Jerry the Platypus. Just I know they didn't really have an intention to make a follow-up the first time, but I feel like the second trailer, they were just like, okay, we're going to make this stupid on purpose. And I feel like that may have fired back in their face a little bit.
Yeah, they shot themselves in the foot a little bit.
Well, that is one of the reasons why I liked the ending trailer bit, is because we now know there's not going to be a fourth one, so we're all free.
Yeah. Hey, never say never. I have a whole list of alternate movie titles with the word meep in it.
I am excited to hear that.
Yeah, that's going to be our bumper to this episode, so stick around to the end. All right, I kind of want to talk about John Stamos a little bit. Do we have any?
I always want to talk about John Stamos.
Do we have any Full House fans in the call?
Dude, I used to stay up late when I was little, watching Nick at Night. Late at night, like my parents would let me stay up.
When else would you watch Nick at Night?
Exactly. They would air reruns of Full House. So I did grow up watching John Stamos, and I love John Stamos. I know he's like a huge Disney fan, and I'm sure he
owns the original D from the Disneyland sign that used to be on Harbor Boulevard. It's a huge D. It's like the size of this room.
Wait, does Disney know that, or are you incriminating him right now?
No, like he bought it at an auction.
Oh, okay.
No, like he didn't steal. It's not like people showed
not like
up.
BoJack Horseman.
No, it wasn't like people showed up and it was Isneyland or Disneyland. No, he famously has the big Disney D. He's always doing stuff with the Disney company. He's hosting events. I've seen him at a couple Disney events. I didn't love his Meep voice.
Yeah.
Like I liked his regular speaking voice, but him doing the Meep didn't quite have the same feeling as Lorenzo Lamas.
Agreed.
I agree.
Does anyone know why they didn't bring back Lorenzo?
No.
I don't know. It must have been a scheduling thing.
Well, here's my opinion. They've used a different celebrity in every Meep episode. Like they used Jeff Foxworthy in the second one.
Wait,
that
really?
being said, I'm surprised that
But it's been Lorenzo doing the actual Meep every time.
Yes, I don't
okay.
know why they didn't use that, because they could have just done what they used for like D. Bradley Baker's Perry the Platypus sounds and reuse it, unless it's different because he was like a guest actor. I don't know.
I can only imagine it would come down to like contracting issues, because I think John Stamos as Meep's like regular talking voice I think was perfectly good. Like it was serviceable, it worked. He can't do the Meep very well, which is I feel like a pretty big thing to get right. And it does kind of beg the question why they couldn't just use archival audio for that. It was kind of distracting and took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's kind of a twofold problem. I think one of them is he doesn't make the Meep sound very well. Unfortunately, it's not even just like it's a different spin on it. It just like doesn't sound good. And also, I think my least favorite thing about the episode is that Meep talks normally the whole time.
Yeah.
So much of the fun of Meep is that he just says Meep, Meep, Meep all the time, and because he lost his translator. And like Phineas and Ferb and maybe Candace too now, since she's spoken him a few times, are able to like sort of decipher what he's saying and figure it out along the way. That's half the fun of Meep.
Yeah.
This is something that I definitely noticed upon rewatch of the first two. And they have really clever moments in the first two episodes about when the mustaches fall off. Like even the bit in Meapless in Seattle where he's on top of the Seattle Space Needle saying Meep is like it's because he's falling out of a ship and it knocks his mustache off at the last second. And it's also fun to see an entire species, like when they go to Meep's home planet, just talking in that way. In this episode, the first species we see is the commander, voiced by Leslie Jones, who I think did a great job in this episode.
Love Leslie Jones.
So
but
good.
Starting it with the regular speaking, I think they lost a little bit of humor with that.
Can I play devil's advocate like
Sure.
I have been for the last 20 minutes? I think your criticisms of like how this episode is very different tone-wise from Meapless in Seattle and the Chronicles of Meep, valid criticisms. That being said, you rewatched the Meep episodes before rewatching this, and I feel like you were very familiar with the Meep episodes. You're a Phineas and Ferb superfan, and I am as well. But I think I was watching this from the perspective of someone who vaguely remembers the Meap episodes and is now watching this one, which I feel like might be a majority of the viewers, versus someone who's very intricately familiar with the details of Chronicles of Meap and Meapless in Seattle. I can understand how someone who is a big fan of those episodes, this might be a letdown. But I do think for the casual viewer, not to say that I'm a casual viewer of Phineas and Ferb, but I am a casual viewer of the Meap episodes, that it might be more enjoyable, because I didn't even remember those details about how Meap mainly spoke in Meeps in the other episodes. I mean, I know the first one.
I love how now Zach's defense of this episode is, to be fair, I actually don't know very much about Meap.
No, I'm just saying, like,
I'm
I
kidding.
don't know if this was written for the diehards. I think this was written for the people that just like the show, you know?
No, that is a
That
fair
makes me
point.
sad.
Is like, I do think you need to judge media on its own merits and not necessarily exclusively as a follow-up to something. That said, maybe we should get into like I want to talk about the pacing of this episode a little bit. Because to me, this is something that I think, regardless of memory of the original episodes, I thought was really bizarre.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it kind of feels like rapid fire for a lot of the episode of just exposition. And I feel like with another couple of drafts, they could have restructured it in a way that didn't feel quite as jarring. Like, so for example, it's a few minutes into the episode where we get the lore drop that Big Mitch has this like vacation tourism business, but it's actually a front to try to find this like hidden treasure on Earth. And there are tourists that go to these vacations and they trash the Earth when they show up. Like, it's just a lot thrown at you right away. And then they have that whole joke with like, oh, let's make Stabby Barf Pain to circumvent this. And all of this happens in the course of like 1 minute. And I'm just like, what's happening? It's weird. I want to say for the record, I think Stabby Barf Pain, the song, is probably the highlight of this episode for me.
Stabby Barf Pain. I'm sorry, it's so good.
I take it, Cadence, that you're a fan of Stabby Barf Pain.
So, okay, the first time I watched the episode, I was messaging with Carly, who I know is on the podcast earlier. I love her so bad. I was texting her, and I was like, what's going on? This song is crazy. And I knew that Stabby Barf Pain was a song, but I was like, I hate the word barf. So I
Yeah,
was
not a good word.
I was not really feeling it, but Carly was like, no, Stabby Barf Pain's the best part, but like your opinion's valid if you don't like it. But then I was like, okay. And then because she liked it, I gave it another chance. And I was like, I was so appalled watching the episode because I was like, what is happening? Where's my Phinbella? We will get back to that. We are going to talk about Phinbella later, but not right this second.
I do want to talk about that.
We are going to talk about that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But being able to appreciate the song outside of context is amazing. And Alison Stoner is amazing. Olivia Olson is amazing. She's so nice. She's like the nicest person in the world. So like,
She's great.
I love that song. I love the harmonies. And I actually figured out that Stabby Barf Pain and Ferb Latin, they're in the same key. And the beginnings of those songs.
Cadence, I was going to say this, like, literally, Ferb Latin's one of my favorite Phineas and Ferb songs, and from the intro, like, it even has the dun dun dun, and I literally wanted to go, you take the first letter of every word. Like, when I was driving to work today, I was singing Ferb Latin to Stabby Barf Pain.
Yes, I was doing the same thing.
It's a great
in
chord
my
progression.
car. Yes. So we need to make that
Yeah.
happen.
Oh my god, so
We
down.
need to make that happen.
I just want to shout out, so that, like you said, Cadence, the singers of Stabby Barf Pain, it's Alison Stoner, Olivia Olson, and then a third vocalist, Baraka May. I'm not super familiar with her work. I know she does some like TV singing like this. And they posted like a behind the scenes video on TikTok a little before the season dropped of the three of them recording this in the studio in person. Like, a lot of these harmonies were done in real time.
So cool.
I not only think the harmonies sound excellent, I think this is the best key they've ever put Isabella in for a song.
Yes.
Like, it's really good
It's
for her
good
voice.
for
She
her.
sounds so good.
Yeah, for that high voice. Like, because it's not too high to the point where she's like screeching and no, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think in general, the general range they've had Isabella's voice in for this season, to me, is like the best it's sounded.
She sounds so good. As I love she's my favorite. I love her to pieces, and I love Isabella in season 5. How she talks, everything about Isabella in season 5 is a win. So thank you to them. The high pitched voice, it was a little too much by the end of the series.
Yeah.
So I had a similar experience to you, Cadence, where Carly specifically was the one that hyped up this song to me, and it's on the soundtrack. So I think a handful of people listen to this before getting to the episode itself, and I love the song. I think, again, best part of this episode. However, I think the absurdity of the song being called "Stabby Barf Pain" made me really excited to see what the context for this could possibly be and how they could possibly create exposition for this for the joke to land. And I gotta say, like, I was kind of disappointed when they bring it up in the episode. So it's the name of this theoretical 5th season that they create to combat Big Mitch's tourism plans. And I guess what I was thinking was, like, there would be some sort of a scene where this problem is presented to Phineas and Ferb and the gang, and they're, like, sitting in the backyard trying to come up with a way to combat it. And they're like, I know, let's make a theoretical 5th season. And there's, like, some sort of workshopping of what it should be called. And then for some absurd reason, an amalgamation of the letters of the different seasons forms Stabby Barf Pain. And they're like, well, that's terrible, but I guess we'll go with it. And they sort of do that joke.
Well, what they do is they show all the letters going to form it, and then it just turns out they're not the letters that form it at all, and that's why Buford kind of shrugs to the camera.
Yeah.
I liked that. I was kind of thinking it was going to be like a Jeremy Bearimy kind of thing from The Good Place, where it's like everything comes together and it looks like
this.
But it
yeah.
But then the joke of it being named after the guy who was bad at naming things, I'll say that was the part of the episode that didn't really land for me and maybe need another draft.
Yeah. I almost feel like Buford, like, shrugging away the fact that it didn't go together is like what the writers did. They're like, let's come up with a funny exposition for this, and it just kind of, unfortunately, they didn't have one. And, like, we missed the scene of them even coming up with it. Like, the first time this 5th season is even pitched as an idea this episode is Bujeet saying, let's do Stabby Barf Pain. And I'm just like, man, you had this great potential for this song itself to be a punchline, and I just don't think it worked, and that was disappointing to me.
Yeah, it was like a punchline without a setup, almost. Because, like, actually, I just very quickly off the cuff came up with a few different other ways that you could mesh the names of the 4 seasons together, including F-swintering, Spraltermer, Windfumming. It really is just like Swinter, but you add the other 2. That's kind of the idea. But
Nick Frank Tom.
Yeah,
that was a reference to the 4 seasons, the band.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Vivaldi, something Vivaldi related. But I will say for this song, I like this. But
I love Bluey.
The song I like the song too, but I think one of the reasons I maybe don't like it quite as much as other people is some of you may know I worked at a Toys R Us in Canada, which still exists in Canada, even though a bunch of them are closing now. I used to work at one.
Tragic backstory.
And they play like the rotation of songs, and includes a lot of Disney songs and like some Disney Junior songs. So I heard the Doc McStuffins theme song many times over the years, which actually does sound quite. It has like the same melodic contour as this Doc McStuffins.
Why would you
Doc
say
McStuffins.
that?
Yeah, dun 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 dun. And I'm stabby, mommy. I don't know.
Someone make the mashup.
I immediately thought of Doc McStuffins, and I was like, I can't really get into this very
someone
much.
needs to make a Doc McStuffins Ferb
Ferb
Latin
Latin.
Stabby Barf Pain
You'll
mashup.
never be able to unhear that.
If you're in the comments, make that mashup.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, and then post the lyrics in the comments section.
Yeah.
It's just
Also, do you guys... Okay, I want to clarify for the record, because I know someone will point it out if we don't mention. Yes, I'm aware the 5th season is a joke about the meta. It's a 5th
wink.
season
a
of the
joke
show.
that I didn't get until the very end of the episode, by the way.
But do you think it's a little weird that they didn't mention Swinter or Sval even once in this episode?
Yes.
Oh,
Swinter's
yeah.
the best.
Because, like, they've done those. They've done this idea. And when they did Sval, they acknowledged that they had done it with Swinter. But with this one, they weirdly don't mention it once, and I thought that was odd.
Honestly, I feel like it would have been cooler if they just, because they've already done Swinter and Sval, if they did Spring, and they're like,
Yes.
it's summer and spring, the 2 best seasons, and then they've just completed the rounds of summer with all 3.
Whoa. The 2 best seasons?
No,
No.
but like that's
What are your favorite?
I'm not saying
Fall
that
and winter.
I'm saying
I like
The
I'm not
feud
saying that the 2
continues.
best. I'm saying that if they were to
Fight,
go that
fight.
route in the episode, that they would have to say, how can we lure Mitch here? Well, these would be what we think
I
are
see.
the 2 best seasons. Not my opinions.
Okay, one thing that I think it was odd is Mitch, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself. It has to do with Stabby Barf Pain. He made it sound like he didn't know what Earth was. but which made no
Yeah.
sense. But then he was very familiar with Stabby Barf Pain, which was made by an earthen scientist, I'm assuming. So I was like, why are we forgetting Earth? We've been there before, but we know what Stabby Barf Pain is? Like, I agree that they should have made it up.
He not only is aware of it, but the tourists on his alien planets have heard of it.
Yeah, I was like, what is this?
I noticed the tourists use a lot of character designs from Out to Launch.
Yes.
As
Me
well
too.
as the big alien that like that
destroys the guy that
yeah,
hits on
I was noticing
Vanessa.
a lot of reused character designs, including in the song Stabby Barf Pain. The guy that's grilling, I think that's just the Santa Claus model from Christmas
Yes!
Vacation, but they
I
made
wrote
his
that
beard
down.
brown. Yeah.
He had a midlife crisis. He dyed his beard.
This whole podcast has us been being like, that's that one incidental character with different colors and trying to figure out if it's intentional or if they were just using like character models.
And
in
then
the
us
library.
being like, Dink Winkerson, why are you here again?
Be
Yeah,
like,
shouldn't he be in prison?
Yeah, I don't know.
Swampy talked about that in an article that they're using Dink Winkerson more. I read that like yesterday. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
No, I like that they're using Dink Winkerson more, but he got arrested when he stole those umbrellas from those moms.
That's right, the mother mugger.
yeah, and now he just has
Maybe
an
the
umbrella.
production order got changed.
I just wanted to say mother mugger.
They let him out for good behavior.
Yeah, or maybe it's like a commentary on how rich talent never has to face legal consequence.
He's a Nepo baby.
Seriously. All right, I have something else I want to point out, which is that this episode so far is the closest we got to the bread bowl hot tub. And
Oh.
honestly, if we didn't spend so much time running around town celebrating, they might have actually built it. But I will
I
say,
wrote that down.
you know, Stabby Barf Pain, fine. Do the tidy up, fine. But the best
Phinbella
musical
duet.
moment in this episode is the 1812 overture. That was so funny to me when Buford's like, yes, yeah, and flashbacks to grade 9 band, the time of my life. That Tchaikovsky. I was only missing the cannons going off. Wait, did they do the cannons? I don't know, but that was a fantastic use. I think this is the second instance they've used classical music. They had the Blue Danube and Aurora Borealis, and now they got this one here. Impeccable placement.
While we're on the topic of Buford celebrating, because there will never be another moment where I get to bring this up, I watched this episode with subtitles on, and for whatever reason, when Buford first picks up Baljeet in celebration of the Bread Bowl hot tub, he's saying "Dreams do come true," and the subtitles on Disney Plus said "We built the drone."
Oh yeah, Disney Plus's subtitles have been terrible this season. Like, use the platypus sound here. Disney Plus, get your subtitling shit together, okay?
Oh, we gotta use. Oh, you just said use the platypus sound here. Speaking of platypus, why is Jerry the platypus so large?
Seriously.
Oh, no.
Hey, don't body shame him.
No, I mean we've seen him before. He's not that large.
Oh, that's true.
Also, Meap got bigger.
He got hit with a growth ray.
Maybe he got hit with a growth ray. These are minor nitpicks. These are not my biggest problems with the episode.
The worst part of the episode.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We got to hear David Arago Jr. Object to this union, so that was fun.
Yeah. They also kind of retcon you into thinking that the trailer always had David Arago Jr.'s Jeremy,
Which I don't mind.
as well as John Stamos' Meap.
Trying to gaslight us.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of Jeremy, why was Vivian Garcia Shapiro at the party for Susie?
I know.
They just had all the parents there.
I have theories.
Wait, you know?
Okay, well,
Tell
my
us, tell
first
me.
theory, well, I have a thought, but the actual theory, maybe she catered the party because she does have a restaurant actor
Oh.
age, so maybe she catered the party.
That's true.
But-
That's true.
It's very interesting that if we're talking Jeremy and Isabella, Jeremy is going to end up with Candace and Isabella's going to end up with Phineas, so they're going to be like sibling in-laws. I looked this up. Technically, I think they would be considered sibling in-laws, so their parents are hanging out. It's so fun.
Just in advance to prepare.
Yes, like how 15 years in advance. There have been multiple Phinbella wedding jokes this season, so it's not far, it's canon, it's gonna happen.
There's been so many Phinbella jokes in this season, and yet none in the episode where you would expect there to be some.
I know! My life is so good, but also so sad. Anyway.
I did just remember that Phinbella, as I call it, is a pretty big part of the first two Meap episodes, and it was missing from this one. That's something I just now realized, like,
Yeah.
when Caden said Phinbella.
I want to jump into that, but I do want to quickly shout out. Apparently, this episode was the first speaking appearance of Susie Johnson since season 3.
What?
Whoa.
And they got
Really?
Carrie Walgreen back for it.
Was the last one?
Yeah. I mean,
God.
her last appearance was in Last Day of Summer in a flashback, but Ferb TV was the last time she spoke.
Ah.
What?
Who, by the way, I don't know which writer wrote Ferb TV, but like, I want to take you out for coffee. Like, that episode's so good.
It's so funny.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't think they would have brought Susie back if not for the fact that they already put her in the trailer. I don't think there's would be any other motivation to bring back this devil
Yeah.
child.
Because they have other evil children this season, as we've talked about.
Brittany.
Melissa.
Yeah. So should we finally dive into, I guess, what I'm assuming was Cadence's biggest woe of this episode was Phinbella and the lack of it.
Lack thereof. All right, Cadence, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So here's the thing. When you have Meap episodes, there are certain things that, if we're judging the first two, that you want to have. Candace and Meap kind of working together, having a partnership, Candace kind of learning a lesson. That's usually a part of these episodes. And this is a great episode for Candace, I think, Meap Me in St. Louis. But another big underlying theme is cuteness. Meap is from a cute-based society, as we learn in Meapless in Seattle. And Isabella is always kind of connected to that. The first episode, we have a running gag where Phineas is picking up on a cute interference, and Isabella's like, you wouldn't know cute if it bit your legs off. I'm causing the cute interference, and he's not getting it. And then at the end, you find out he programmed the cute tracker to ignore her from the beginning. So Phineas has already acknowledged that she's cute. He's known the whole time. And Isabella's just kind of like, oh,
It's
okay.
science.
And it's adorable. It's so cute. It's so them. And then in the second Meap episode, there's one scene where there's a couple Phinbella moments. There's one there in the rocket, and Phineas is like, we'll have to program this to ignore Meap. And you too, Isabella. And she's like, I don't need your charity, which is one of my favorite Isabella lines. It's so funny. And then later, when they're on his planet, we elevate the cuteness theme into that one to where cuteness is the weapon because it's a cute-based society. And then Mitch becomes the ultimate cute life form, and Phineas is like hypnotized or whatever. And then Isabella like takes her helmet off and swooshes her hair around, and she snaps him
dramatic
out of
hair
his cute trance because he loves her so bad, but he doesn't know it yet. And he's like, Isabella, you're the cute weapon. You're cute right to your core. And she's like, you think I'm cute? And he's like, well, it's a scientific fact. And she's like, close enough. I'm on it. And she slings down and she saves the day. And Candace gets all the credit in that episode for throwing her phone, whereas Isabella jumps off of a ledge with her hair and she out-cuted Mitch. And then she saved the day.
I never thought of it that way.
Isabella never gets the credit she deserves. And I'm sorry. I just love Isabella so much. But yeah, so cuteness is a big, and Isabella factoring into that is a big part of the first two episodes. So the fact that this one did not talk about Meap's society being cute based at all, like the plan had nothing to do with cuteness or anything like that, I thought was crazy. Like, because that just is such a part of Meap. And there was no Phinbella at all, which I remember as a kid when Meapless in Seattle came out, I was really excited for it because it was like, oh, there was Phinbella in the last one, so there's going to be Phinbella in this one. And like that logic tracked. But this one, like, we've had so many good Phinbella moments this season, so I really can't complain. But like, it's a Meap episode. You're supposed to have a joke about Isabella being cute and Phineas acknowledging it, but in like a really oblivious way. So the fact that we didn't have that is really sad. And I don't know if it's time to talk about this, but when I was 12, I came up with my own idea of how this story should have gone.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
this feels like a good time to share that we actually have the writer of Meap Me in St. Louis in the call with us right now. And that writer
John Colton Berry?
That writer is Cadence. Cadence wrote Meap Me in St. Louis.
It's true, way back in 2012.
2013 or 2012.
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of want to talk about this first, and then I'll let you actually talk about it. Because
okay.
I have not read the entire thing, I will admit. I've read like the first 7 chapters or so, and I've kind of skimmed through other parts. But honestly, the premise behind this behind your idea you came up with when you were 12 years old, I think is better than the actual Meet Me in St. Louis. Basically, I'll just briefly explain the premise for the listeners. Is basically, from what I understand, correct me if I am misremembering or forgot something.
Of course.
Is it starts with basically Isabella's family or Isabella's mom got a job in St. Louis, so Isabella is moving to St. Louis. And obviously she's really sad about it, and Phineas is super sad about it. And then we find out that Mitch has actually maniacally lured Isabella's family to St. Louis in order to try to channel Isabella's cuteness to take over the world in order to, but having to like first isolate her from all her friends who defeated him in the past is kind of the gist of it.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, you go ahead now. Talk.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie, that sounds dope. That sounds awesome.
It does. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's that's basically it. And of course, there's all this Phinbella. And full disclosure, the fake trailer is not acknowledged at all in the story because I was like, that's not what we're here for. I was in 6th grade, okay. But yeah, I had a notebook that had golden retrievers on it. I would carry it around school. And I would write it on my iPod Touch. That's how long ago this was. But yeah, it's a story. Isabella gets kidnapped by Mitch, and they go save her. And well, they try to save her, but then crazy convoluted things happen. And but yeah, I actually recently went back and edited some of it, and I left most of it intact to like preserve the 2010s-ness of it, but I did post it on my AO3 if you're interested in reading it. It is finished. It's really cheesy.
Should we attach the link to the description of this episode?
Done.
Yes, of course. Yeah, though I think it's very meta. You said the word meta earlier, Zach. It's very meta. There's a lot of jokes. I made some edits to it because every time I would read it when I was little, I would edit it. So I call it a living, breathing document. So I made some edits. I added some jokes, some references to other episodes.
Hey,
but
I'll say this. I've been talking to a lot of Disney writers as of late, like Imagineers and scriptwriters, and their big thing over at Disney is iterate, iterate, iterate. Even if you think something is solid, draft another version just because you never know what you'll be inspired to create or what you'll be inspired to add or take away. So I love that it's a living, breathing document.
Yeah.
All right, Cadence, you don't have to share this. This might be a spoiler if you don't want to. Do Phineas and Isabella get together at the end of your story?
Oh, okay. Well, spoilers. 3, 2, 1. They do. They get together. There's actually, I
Mazel
think this
tov.
is totally spoiling. This is totally spoiling the ending. But I think this joke is really funny that I wrote when I was younger. Of course they kiss. If I were to write a fanfic now, I wouldn't have them kiss when they're kids, you know. But I was 12 when I wrote this, and Candace throughout the story, she's like been trying to control her busting urge because she's like, there's more, like, Isabella's been kidnapped, Isabella's gone, Phineas is depressed, I can't bust him right now, but she really wants to bust someone. So at the end of the story, she sees that Isabella has miraculously survived and she's home, and there's this whole paragraph where she's like, Mom, Mitch did this, and he kidnapped Isabella, and blah, 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 and Phineas and Isabella kissed, which we all knew was going to happen eventually, and the mom comes in the backyard, and she just sees Isabella, and she's like, oh my god, Isabella, you moved back. And she pulls Candace aside and she's like, aliens, dictators, a kiss? Really, Candace? Aren't they a little young to kiss? And then Candace is like, well, that would have been the point.
That's good.
And then she's like, oh, that feels so nice. Like, she finally got to have her busting urge. So I'm sorry I spoiled the story. I think that's really funny. Also,
I think that makes... Sometimes hearing the end makes you want to check out the product. Like I knew the ending of How I Met Your Mother before going into the series, and I think I liked the finale as a result of knowing it going into it.
All right, so any piece of media that you guys recommend, say the biggest spoiler right now.
No, don't do that.
No, let's not do that.
Don't do that. I will say, I think one of the reasons why Phineas and Isabella work so well as a ship, at least for me, is the fact that they can't actually get together.
Agreed.
It's kind of, it's like, and I know you were kind of going crazy on Twitter this week about the Summer Belongs to You. Sunset scene. I feel
That's
like
one of the best scenes in Phineas and
Ferb.
Ferb.
It perfectly encapsulates like why, at least at this point in their life, like of course they won't get together, and it's not just because they're too young, but it's because their personalities don't actually match yet. It's like, oh, is it like Phineas being romantic at this point at least is kind of a betrayal of his character and a betrayal of what Isabella actually likes about him. And I think that's kind of what makes the ship look kind of like endlessly intriguing to a lot of people. And it's almost
Yes.
kind of like, even in The Office, as I watched The Office for the first time like a year and a half
I
ago.
love The Office.
And the seasons long
Jim and Pam.
Jim and Pam thing is like so interesting actually. And then once they actually do get together, it's like, oh, well, I guess it's done now. It's kind of
Yeah.
boring. It's over, you know?
Yeah.
I do have a question. Am I allowed to talk about leaks here?
Yeah, we've been doing that.
Okay, so the Phineas and Ferb pitch Bibles got leaked.
Yes,
I downloaded them.
Okay.
I love those Bibles.
And in
Zach
the
loves
pitch,
the Bible.
Well, hold on.
Okay, and in the pitch Bible, in all the paragraphs about Isabella, they talk about her feelings for Phineas and how Phineas doesn't see her that way because he's little. Which there's your interpret. That's kind of what you did in MWCA, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
But then it says, we assume that when they're in high school, Phineas will be pursuing Isabella relentlessly.
Relentlessly.
Relentlessly. But for now, he just doesn't think of girls that way. And when I read that, I was like, oh God. And then later, there's in season 2, they have a revised Bible, and it talks about how like Isabella is Phineas's best friend, which like we knew, but the fact that it's been in the Bible this whole time, it's been in the Bible,
Mhm.
and she's his best friend. And
This is your personal Bible.
Yeah, it's a personal. But it's
That's what they should put in all the hotels at Disney.
the
Seriously.
Phinbella Bible. But it says that for Isabella, they were friends first, and then her feelings matured sooner than his. But that ultimately, them being best friends is like kind of the core of their bond, and she just matured faster than Phineas did. And I just think that is so. It's like everything I've ever thought about Phinbella was correct.
Well, yeah, we see in Lord of the Firesides that girls mature faster than
Oh,
boys.
yes, of course. And I mean, it's still my opinion that at least by the time we're at the end of the original series, if Phineas had understood that Isabella liked him romantically, they wouldn't have like started dating, but he would have been like, oh, this is why I like you too, Isabella. Aliki's boards for Night of the Living Pharmacist in the original boards, he was going to kiss her and say, you're the 1st person I thought of. I'm sorry, this episode, Phinbella isn't even in this episode, and we're just talking about Phinbella, but that is my opinion, that if he had understood, he would have reciprocated, and however you can reciprocate when you're 10 years old. But anyway, I just really love Phineas as well, and Alex, you hit the nail on the head. The Summer Belongs to You sunset scene is Dan's favorite scene in the show.
For good reason.
Thank
Very
you,
good
Dan. You're
reason.
correct. It's so
Honestly,
good. That scene
it
changed
might
my
be
brain
mine, too.
chemistry. It's so good. Isabella is just, she has what she wants, and she sacrifices it to make Phineas happy. And that's why they're so good.
I want to touch upon, I mean, yes, Phinbella, I think Cadence, you are somebody that fully understands why they're so interesting and why they work so well with each other, more than probably most people in the fandom. And
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful.
It's a blessing and a curse.
I do want to say, and so I think the lack of Phinbella being in the canon, Meap Me in St. Louis, the official one, is understandably disappointing. However, I wanna bring back up a point that Zach made earlier
Thank
about
you.
What?
That's just very kind of you.
Yeah, no, because I want to be fair. I want to be fair to this episode. I don't want the takeaway of this podcast being I didn't like it and I didn't justify why. You stated earlier that like some of our disappointments seem like they come from a direct result of being familiar with the earlier ones and therefore having certain expectations. I don't think, as much as I love Phinbella and I completely understand why everyone wants Phinbella, I don't think Phinbella is like needed to make this episode work.
Yeah.
What I do think was missing overall, though, is kind of just a lack of like character stakes in general. Because I think like even if you set apart Phinbella from like the original Meap episodes, it's like, oh, Phineas and Ferb have been kidnapped by aliens and Candace needs to get them back. Or in the second one, it's like Candace is trying to like prove to her mom she can be responsible. Or they have that whole subplot where it's like Doof is going after Balloony because he has this personal sentimental attachment to him. Then they bring in Peter the Panda in the second one.
And he's cheating.
It didn't
again.
need to be a direct.
Well, they do have Doof going after Balloony in this one.
Yeah,
which is another instance of Doof and Perry working together, which I love.
But then where did
famously.
Balloony come from, though? He was just there.
Yeah, my issue with that is like there was a reason for Balloony to be in the first two. He's just here in the third one, and I'm not really sure why. We see him die. Spoilers at the end of both of his previous appearances, whether you consider it to be Meapless in Seattle, or this is your backstory. And it's like, yeah, he can be patched up. Like, sure, I can forgive that explanation. But like,
In Balloony's initial appearance, Doof was like trying to find him.
in the second appearance, it was like he had already been captured by Mitch. In this one, he's just chilling in his house. He's like, oh, Balloony's here. And I feel like they were doing that just to check another box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish that there had been like you're gonna hate what I'm about to say.
No, sure.
But like a checklist of like things to include in a Meep episode. And then it's like, Balloony's
I
here.
approve
And then
of
like
that.
a check mark would appear or something. Oh,
Because
okay,
we could have
thank
gotten
you.
a Phinbella check mark.
We barely talked about Doof and Perry in this episode
Yeah.
so far. I just want to say one of my favorite jokes in the entire season so far comes from this episode, which is like the voice of the self-destruct button being like,
I do like that joke.
self-destructing
Oh, I love
any
that.
minute now. It's go time. Why are you still here?
That was hilarious.
I really enjoyed that. And then Doofenshmirtz is, wait, we're in St. Louis? When did that happen? Like, there are a lot of good lines.
There are
in
good
this
jokes in
episode.
this episode. Like,
yeah.
I don't think there's not a single Phineas and Ferb episode that is devoid of good jokes.
Amen.
I do think I thought it was a little odd the Doof Perry plot revolved around Doof like trying to be more maniacal. And then
Maniacal
the big conclusion
Maniacal
of the arc is he
laugh.
spins around like Crash
Muppets.
Bandicoot.
Yeah, it is. Wait, Crash Bandicoot.
He spins around to attack his enemies.
Oh, I know what he looks like. But I don't know what he does.
He looks like how Doofenshmirtz looked when he was attacking those robots.
He looks like a combination of Doofenshmirtz and an ocelot.
Okay. As long as we're talking about Dr. Doofenshmirtz, there was
Yeah.
another thing while Cadence is here that I really want to talk about, which is kind of related to Meap Me in St. Louis, but also not really.
Yes.
So we see in Perry's lair entrance today, not the lair
Yeah.
entrance, but his, the briefing. So Doofenshmirtz, maniacally using the blender, brushing his teeth, all this stuff. And Major Monogram has a very important and very telling line, which is, we have...
Oh, I hate this line.
I love this line. We have to assume evil intent because that's what pays the bills around here.
Oh,
Now,
I know why you're bringing
I just
this
want to
up.
say, yes. All right.
I wrote
This
it down.
sentence contains the entire secret to the organization without a cool acronym. So I have prepared a little bit of a short speech that I'm going to recite now. All right. I'm literally reading from a script starting now. So I would like to open...
Your script started with the word
No, it didn't, because I was trying to figure out where my script started. So I would like to open this discussion with my theories, and then I would like to let Cadence share her theories.
All right, screw me and Andrew, I guess.
Well, because Cadence and I have already talked about this, that we have a similar theory, and then you can share your theories too if you have any. So anyway,
I'm good.
I'm going back on script now. We established a working theory last episode that Alka had been a government organization, but it was shut down in Phineas and Ferb Save Summer and reopened independently. But even if Alka is technically a business and not government run, it still does need to get its funding from somewhere. And it's not a classic business in the sense that it doesn't sell commodities. So it either operates thanks to some collection of wealthy donors who, for one reason or another, is adamant on ensuring the thwarting of these evil scientists, or, and I think this is the more likely option, Alka still receives government funding even if the organization is not officially a wing of the government or under the official purview of the government. It's still government funded just because they are seen as offering a useful service to the government. However, as with any organization, especially if it's government funded, the purpose of the organization begins to change places with the form, by which I mean the purpose of the organization, which is to fight crime and fight evil scientists, actually becomes relegated to a secondary thing, and the organization just becomes an organization for its own sake, basically an organization for the purpose of a layer of bureaucrats with high salaries whose general outlook is not based on the efficient fighting of crime, but on the preservation of their funding and their privileges. So an organization like this basically has to constantly justify its reason for existence. So for that reason, Alka requires that Love Muffin continues to operate and be a threat, or at least to seem like a threat, so that it will continue to receive government funding. And that is the reason why Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who was hired by Alka last fall is still an employee of Alka and is being ordered by Alka to pose as evil, to pretend to be
That's the
evil,
justification.
in order to make it appear as though Alka is actually fulfilling its duties as an organization. Hines is in on it, Perry's in on it, Monogram is in on it. I don't know if Carl is in on it, but you might be asking yourself,
He's got a lot of other things going on.
why is it that they all have to keep up the act? Why does Hines have to keep laughing maniacally? And why does Perry have to keep punching him in the face? Reason number 1 is that they find it fun. But reason number 2 is that government funding comes with strings attached. And one of those strings is that the agents have microchips, which gives the government direct access to the location of the agent and the sounds surrounding the agent. We saw firsthand last episode in Haberdasher how essential it is that Perry remains chipped. The second he lost his chip, he had to go get a new one, not for any security reasons, but because the government requires it, and if Perry works without it, they will become suspicious. So to summarize, Alka is tricking the government into thinking that it serves a useful purpose to remain afloat and receive funding, and part of that trick involves Dr. Doofenshmirtz pretending to be evil again. Thank you very much for your time.
Did you get access to the season 5 show Bible?
Wow.
What did you?
No.
Oh,
And can you give me the Phinbella parts?
Yeah, how does Phinbella factor into this, Alex?
also Alex, that was impressive. Very good.
All right, Cadence. I know
That-
Cadence,
I
you
like
had a
that.
similar theory. I don't know if it's identical, but what are
Yeah.
your?
Mine
Yeah.
is more character based. In that Doofenshmirtz, my theory was like, why would he go back to evil? So I was like, maybe because Doofenshmirtz is no longer like being evil, the agency was going to relocate Perry, and Doofenshmirtz, so Perry can stay with his family and stay there, decides to go back to being evil. So Perry doesn't have to go back to fighting. And as we witness in Milo Murphy's Law, I feel like Doofenshmirtz does more bad when he's trying to be good than he ever did when he was trying to be bad. So it's kind of like in his mind, he's like, okay, I'm gonna be evil again, but really I'm gonna be doing good because I never seem to do anything evil when I'm actually trying
He's
to be
aware
evil.
of it.
So yes, he's aware. So I doubt this isn't what they're going for in season 5, but my theory was like, Doofenshmirtz and Perry are both in on it. Like, it's kind of, they're scamming Alka in a way. Like, Perry is fighting Doofenshmirtz to get the check, and so he can stay home. And then Doofenshmirtz is using this to build and maybe inadvertently do some good, you know?
And figure out time travel if you're still going to count Milo Murphy's Law as a part of the canon.
Yeah.
I wish we knew why Vanessa doesn't care. Because, like, I know y'all already talked about the Aura Borealis, but when she was talking about with Monty, the star-crossed lovers thing, I was like, okay, but your dad wasn't evil for a whole year. So why was that a problem?
Yeah, that's a good
Like,
point.
I guess their dads still hate each other. I don't know. I was like, why is that an issue? Like, my theory is Vanessa is actually a lesbian, and that was just her excuse. Because Stacy Nessa will be real in season 9.
I don't know if Vanessa's a lesbian. I just think she came up with an excuse and just doesn't actually like Monty that much. I don't think the star-crossed love has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, have you
Like,
seen the
yeah,
inside of his nostrils?
Yeah, it kind of looks kind of gross in there, to be honest.
As of episode 6, yeah.
That's my theory. I wish they'd had one off gag like, yeah, you know, the past year I tried to be good. It didn't go well. I'm just gonna be evil again. You
Like
know,
a cutaway,
I wish they'd
cutaway,
given us
or like a
some-
montage of him trying to do good things, and it like ended up with like pianos falling on
Yeah.
people's heads. and
I mean,
whatnot.
that is the entirety of season 2 of Milo Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen that.
You know, that's true. Valid crash out from Doof. Regression is normal. If you're suffering from regression, it's okay. You can heal.
Or maybe you'll subscribe to my theory and he's not actually regressing at all and he's still just working for Alka.
I like that theory.
Post in the comments. Okay, if you believe Alex's theory, comment #AlexAlkatheory. And if you agree with Cadence's theory, comment #Phinbella forever.
No.
Yeah.
If you agree with
Phinbella!
agree with my theory, then comment #bringback Wendy Stinglehopper.
Okay.
No.
So either
no,
#bring
my
back Wendy
Phinbella
Stinglehopper
agenda.
or #Phinbella forever
No.
for
What do
which
you have
Alka
against
theory?
Wendy Stinglehopper, Cadence?
What about Bujeet? I love Bujeet so bad.
Okay, but like
I'm
let them
actually
get
writing
together
a
when they're in high school and let Bujeet have this middle school fling with Wendy Stinglehopper.
No, Bujeet. I would love to share before I leave my Bujeet conspiracy theory.
Okay, go ahead.
So the episode Bully Bromance Breakup is...
I saw you post about this. Okay, yes.
Between Buford and Bujeet. I posted about this on my Twitter and my Tumblr. And they're like, Buford says, there comes a time you don't want to bully everyone. You just want to bully someone you love. You know, it's very queer-coded. They break up. They have a romantic duet. The very next episode pair includes Buford Confidential, in which Buford is dating, not dating, he's like romantically entangled with this French fireside girl that we'd never seen before, and I don't think we ever see her again. And I just had the episodes on while I was cleaning, and I was like, that's so interesting that they did that. Did Disney make them give Buford a girl love interest to make it clear that Bully Bromance Breakup was just a joke? And I was like, that's just a crack theory. Doofenshmirtz's scheme in the Buford Confidential is making things straight.
That is true.
He has a ray that points at pretzels and turns them straight. And he's
Wait
like, I'm
a
going to make
minute.
them straight. I'm going to make it all straight. And I was like, wait, the villain of
hold
this
on.
episode
Let her cook.
is making things straight. So in my theory is that the crew, Disney made them give Buford a girlfriend. And they were like, okay, well, Buford's also running from her the whole time and we never see her again. So they were like, yeah, we'll do it for one episode. But then they also made the bad guy's whole shtick be making things straight that aren't straight. Because at the end, he ends up using the straight thing. Phineas and Ferb have a curvy river and then it goes kaput. Like, that's just
You
kind
think
of...
that was commentary from the writers on what Disney was making them do to their own series?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what they were. Because in
I
season
buy,
5,
I kind of
Buford
buy this.
is confirmed to...
I'm sold.
He's not straight. Buford is queer. Like, he flirts with Jeremy. He went on a date with Jeremy, and I love that for him. Happy
Kind of.
Pride Month, Buford. So that was, in my opinion, Disney, that's my conspiracy theory. Disney made them make Buford straight, and they fought back by making the villain also
So
make
we just
him
need to find the
straight,
reverse
so-
switch.
I think there's a man out there who's perfect for Buford, but you can never get me to betray Bujeet X Wendy. It's not going away. Sorry. That's the
just gonna-
OTP.
Cadence, all of your
love
theories
Bujeet.
and arguments for Bujeet are completely valid, but really big hat.
we
Yeah,
have made
yeah.
so
Do the
many
writers
Bujeet-
even remember who Wendy Stinglehopper is, or did they just come up with her for one episode, and here we are a decade and a half later harping on her?
I've talked about Wendy Stinglehopper, I think, every single episode of this podcast. or almost.
Oh man.
The only
Anyway.
reason Bujeet, MWCA is what made me love Bujeet so much. So, like,
Oh. I appreciate
Also,
that.
just
You know,
real quick
it's-
fun story.
it's true.
I was working at Disneyland the other day, and I usually get recognized for the Who Was show by guests, but I got recognized for MWCA.
you sold the grapes.
And it was by someone who had written a Bujeet fanfic. And she was like, I wrote the Bujeet fanfic based on MWCA. And then I got to meet her at Disneyland. It was really, really cool. So I
Oh my
forget her
God,
name,
that's
but we've all
amazing.
seen that. We've all read that fanfic. So.
That might be one of my moods.
Oh, well, yeah, I think I ran into one of your moots at Disneyland.
We run into the
Oh my
coolest people
God.
at Disneyland.
We do be getting recognized.
Shout out
at
Danny
Disneyland.
if you're listening to this.
Shout out Danny if you're listening.
Yeah, all right. Does anyone, before we get to Zach's last little special surprise, does anyone have anything to say about Meap Me in St. Louis?
I feel like we've only been spending half this episode actually talking about Meap Me in St. Louis.
That's what happens when you invite me on the podcast.
Oh, I have one thing to
Oh,
say. At the end, when they're talking about Candace's busting obsession, and Meep goes, "Actually, I think it's an obsession for justice." Is this the episode where Candace the idea is being planted in her head that, oh, maybe I should grow up to be a lawyer? Like,
I
wh-
thought of that.
Ooh.
Meep said that, and then maybe she got the wheels turning in her head, and then fast forward to act your age. That's what happens.
Yes.
That occurred to me. Yeah,
There's some-
it's a good
yes.
call.
There's something else we need to acknowledge that was beautiful, is the Candace Against the Universe music being used in this episode twice. Did y'all catch that?
Where was it? No.
Oh my God, no one else caught it? So towards the end, when she's with Mitch on the ship, you can hear in the background 2 times, bum, bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, ba, bum.
That's awesome.
And the ship,
I missed that.
and the ship kind of, I can't believe you guys missed that. Oh
What?
my God. But yeah, the ship kind of looks like the one in, I was noticing that this looks like the Feeble aliens ship. But they twice, I think it's there's a part where she's like going up against Mitch, and then I think after they arrest him, you hear like a quieter version of it. I wrote it down. I was like, Candace against the theme. Candace. It was right before he said huge atomic neuralizer, and then they said it again. I think they did it again after Mitch was arrested. So I thought I loved that callback. That movie is so dear to me. I love that they referenced it because it's a great film, and it's great music. So yeah.
I just want to try to quickly like conclude my thoughts on the episode as a whole, just because I'm scared of the takeaway of this episode being that I'm a hater. I want to say,
I think this episode does have some merit to it. I think there's a few good jokes in there.
and I feel like it has a lot of really good setups for things that I think would have worked really well if they were just like developed a little bit more. I think as an exercise of taking a trailer and fitting 12 shots and forming a story out of it, and there being humor in that and humor in that being contrived, I kind of get what they were going for. I think as far as the actual content and plot of the episode itself goes, I think just maybe a couple revisions of like
Changing the pacing a little bit, introducing it with better exposition, like start the episode on a scene of Big Mitch just doing a commercial for his tourism business, and then let a few scenes pass before we learn what his motives are, and let another scene or two pass before Phineas and Ferb start taking action with it. Like setting up conflicts before you address them. Even like when the alien tourists show up and trash the place, show that conflict evolve before they sing the song about tidying it up. I think just spacing things out differently, raising the stakes, showing more restraint with the jokes would have made this work a lot better. But I mean, I'm happy for everyone this did land for. It's still Phineas and Ferb. It still has a lot of things going for it.
And to end on a positive note, I think the joke of the case of, what was it, Zach Uriah's treasure being a literal gigantic briefcase
being
is an extremely funny
the
gag.
arch being a briefcase handle is very, very funny.
Yeah, and I like Leslie Jones' delivery of like, I don't
that.
think nobody noticed, just put it back there.
Also, like, treasure of yore, I feel like that's a saying. And then the fact that yore is just some guy's last name, and it's like, yeah, it's his treasure.
Mm-hmm. I liked relating to that. I really liked the joke about how there's enough treasure to find an equally huge case with the same amount of treasure and exchange it for that, basically. But Andrew, I am much less afraid of coming across as negative than you. I just thought this was not very good.
Oh, I agree.
Sorry. Come at me, everyone.
I'm trying to get hired by Disney, and so I'm not just saying I like this episode for the sake of my own career. I legitimately did like it though.
All right, so why don't you end with all your other movie
Yeah,
titles?
yeah. I will say something that when I heard that there was no final trailer at the end of this episode, I was disappointed. But I do think the gag of there being a fake out for a trailer only for it to be getting all the shots in, that worked. But I was joking in an earlier episode of Afterferb that the trailer should be Marley and Meap, which would obviously be very sad. So I decided,
Why? What happens in Marley and Me?
Oh, don't worry about it. It's about dead pets. And speaking of, To All Our Dead Pets, the musical I wrote.
God.
But anyway, I did make a list of other Meap titles. And if you have any Meap titles for movies, please comment them, because we would love to hear any ideas that you may have. So some of the trailers that I think could have been fun were Marley and Meap, Meeper by the Dozen, Quantum Meap, The Legend of Meapy Hollow, Killing Meap Softly, My Big Fat Meap Wedding, The Meap It movie instead of the Muppet movie, Now You See Meap, Meap the Robinsons.
Wow.
This is Spinal Meap. It's a Meap world.
That's
Anchor
a deep
Meap, Meap Girls, and finally Miracle on 34th Meap. So
Stop
feel
trying
free
to make
to
Meap happen. It's not going to happen.
comment which of those was your favorite, and also if you have any other Meap movie titles, we would love to hear them here on Afterferb.
I'm just gonna throw in one more Teen Meap movie.
Oh, Teen Meap movie.
And Teen Meap 2.
Yeah, but Alex, you have some really hot takes about the ending of Teen Meap 2.
The ending of Teen Meap 2 is really good. I don't care who disagrees with me. But that brings us to the end of this episode, which might be our longest ever, actually, which is kind of crazy because this is only one episode.
That's what happens when you invite me to the podcast.
We just had so much to say about it.
We did dive into like Lord of the Rings length conspiracy theories. So like
You're welcome.
That is true.
that also contributed to the episode's length.
All right, Cadence, time to plug yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Cadence. I picked my username when I was 19, and I wish I could change it, but we're too late now. We're AuthenticCadence18. I'm on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I posted some art on TikTok recently, and it did shockingly well. So follow me on TikTok. And also, I'm forgetting something. AO3. I post writing on AO3. I post art. I sing sometimes. But yeah, that's me. I post a lot of Phinbella stuff, but I love other things about Phineas and Ferb too. And I'm really happy that I got to be here. And I did like this episode the second time I watched it. It's pretty good. It's funny. I didn't hate it, I promise.
Yep.
And I only hated it a little bit.
It's not like a Mindshare, which is the worst. I hate Mindshare so bad.
We got to have you on to talk about Mindshare at one point. I don't know.
Please.
That's not a promise. But no, at one point, when we hopefully have you on again, we'll get you on for a good episode.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Hit like on this podcast and on this YouTube video. Leave a comment. Say something about Wendy Stinglehopper. It'll make my day.
Ask us a question. We might read it on air.
Talk about Phinbella.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We could have a little ask us a question little segment going on maybe. And as we say at the end of every episode, cloudy with a chance
Cloudy with a chance of meep.
Cloudy with a chance of meep.
Hey, I know what we're gonna analyze. The episodes in season 5. Hope it brings you laughter. This is